Hello, and welcome to the Eldritch Collection. My name is Aaron Peterson, and I will be your curator. Today, we're reviewing It, Chapter 2. I'd first like to start off with some of the pros of the film. One thing that I really enjoyed about the film was the visuals. I thought that a lot of the monsters, a lot of the scares, and a lot of the iterations of It itself were pretty creative. I really appreciated some of the imagination that they illustrated throughout the film. It wasn't just, scary, gory images. A lot of them were clever and impactful in many different ways. I think the scene that really illustrates that the most is the fortune cookie scene. And as many other people have noted, the cast of this film is another highlight. I think a lot of them did very, very well with the part, and they captured the essence of the child actors that came before them in the first movie. It was really, really awesome to see how they took in the roles that were there, how they showed maturity, and also how they were able to capture a childlike sense of fear and friendship and play very well with each other. There was a lot of chemistry, there was a lot of humor, and there was a lot of just really great moments with the characters and the actors themselves. The last pro of It Chapter 2, and one that I think a lot of other people are sort of glossing over, is the fact that this film actually ends. I actually really, really appreciate that, and it's kind of sad how refreshing that is. A lot of films these days are trying to become franchises, and if they're not trying to do that, they're at least trying to keep the possibility open for sequels. And, horror is particularly bad with that, and has been for a while, even before the Marvel trend. And I'm just really, really happy that they didn't have one of the Losers Club, go and meet up with Ian McGregor from Dr. Sleep, or, some big slabbery dog outside of a car. I'm really glad that they didn't try to create a Stephen King cinematic universe, or try to, shoe in at one last little, oh, but is he really dead moment, because I miss closure. I miss having a beginning, middle, and end, as opposed to just a beginning, middle, and transition. So yeah, that's probably one of my favorite parts of this film, actually, is that it ends. On the other side, there were some cons to this film as well. It wasn't a perfect film, and it wasn't as good as the first movie as a movie, but together they form pretty good, not trilogy. Is there a word for a 2-movie series? But there were some cons with this film. And primarily they were the pacing, which a lot of other people have referenced. And I think what they mean by that is that this film felt both long and convoluted at the same time. I've watched some pretty long films before, but they didn't feel that way. And unfortunately, this film does feel off with its timing. And I know that there's a lot of source material that the filmmakers had to work with the original book, and trying to, make sure that the fans were satisfied with this final chapter makes sense, but it feels just like, I don't know, it's hard to pinpoint. It's like there's something there that's either missing, and they didn't take their time enough with certain elements of it, or there's stuff that they could have just removed. I don't know what those elements were. It's been a while since I read the book, and I'm not even really sure that I finished the book, but I don't know. There's just something off about the pacing, and that's unfortunate, but I think the characters and the visuals definitely help soften that blow, or that frustration. Another con is perhaps a little bit more specific to this channel and my own personal taste, and a little bit less so for the average moviegoer, but It Chapter 2 wasn't very Eldritch. It wasn't very strange. It was kind of straightforward for a horror film. Evil clown, it's a shapeshifter, group of kids, they have to solve the mystery. It's very well done, but it's kind of just supernatural Scooby-Doo. There isn't anything new here, and I think it's because the book, is such a classic, and the miniseries before it was so well regarded as well. And so the studio and the director seemed to play it very safe with this film, which I get, which I totally understand. Everybody needs to make money. But I was hoping that they might hint just a little bit more at the cosmic essence of Pennywise than they do in the film, or the other elements that It is referenced in the greater Stephen King mythos. And they don't really get there. They have some pretty unique imagery, but none of it alludes to any greater mystery. And I missed that. I was hoping they would have it. I wasn't expecting them to have it, but they didn't, and I don't know. It's kind of a bummer. But like I said, for the average moviegoer, you're probably not even going to notice that. I also have a couple nitpicks. These aren't too bad, but they took me out of the movie a little bit. One was a pretty overt reference to The Thing, and another was a really bizarre use of music during a kind of gross, violent scene. Let me know if you guys noticed that after you see the movie down in the comments. So who do I think should go and see It? Well, if you liked the first film, I think you're really going to like this film as well. It's not as good cinematically, but it really ties the story together and it gives it a great ending. I think if you like horror film and if you like Stephen King, you should definitely see this as well. It's a great example of Stephen King being brought to life on the silver screen, and as you probably know already, that's kind of a hard thing to do. If you want a really scary movie, this isn't really it. It's more of a film about friendship than it is a film about getting scared. And there's probably some parts for like the hardcore horror fans that, you might find a little cheesy or cliche. On the flip side, if you really, really don't like horror films, like my wife and my sister, they both hated it and swore they'll never see it again because it was too scary for them. So there is that. And finally, a rating for It, Chapter 2. I would consider it a bizarre curiosity, perfectly welcome within the Eldritch Collection. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you guys next week.